I did a little damage on this last night and on Friday writing my tasting notes. I don't know about you guys, but it was pretty warm this weekend, my home. And so this kind of wine was easy to enjoy and difficult to put down. So hopefully our customers all feel the same way and we'll plow through this. So I'll get right into the winery, Clunia. So Clunia Wines, we've been working with them for years. This Tesela label and project that they do is sort of a new thing, new in the last 3 years. And it's basically it's sort of similar, if you guys know the Quigley wines from Priorat, and when they started the Secrets de Mar, bigger properties that are not as old in their vines are going to produce more per acre and allow the winery to make price points that are a little different than some of their low yielding vineyards. And with Clunia, it's not the size of the vineyard that they are using for this one versus the Tesela Albillo. It's just the age of the vines. These are the younger vines on that property. These are still grown at high elevation, but the yield per acre is quite a bit higher than the older vines that they use for the Tesela Albillo. And so they're able to price it here in this mid-20s range, which makes it really price friendly and you know, pretty much an open door to any one of our customers. There's also some differences in winemaking, but the philosophy remains the same. And that is by using high elevation vineyards and using really good grape sourcing and keeping production sizes low, you can make a really high quality wine and you can price them pretty fairly. And so that's what Clunia is all about. So this is the first time we've carried this Albillo. We've obviously had the Clunia Red a few different times. I want to say 3, but maybe just twice. But this is a fun wine, as you guys would probably remember from when we talked about the Clunia Albillo. The Tesela Albillo is the same grape that we discussed being almost extinct. It is a native grape to this area of Spain, north central Spain, the highlands, the plateaus up by Ribera del Duero, also in the Navarra region, which is a little farther north up towards Rioja. That's where the origin of the Albillo grape is. But it was almost completely extinct, meaning that most wineries who were growing Albillo planted new vines, pulled out the old vines, planted them with what probably or most likely more modern or sort of internationally known varietals. And it's a shame because this is sort of a trend in the wine world. I understand why. When wineries, need to make money, they need to sell their wines. That's the bottom line. And if you're using these kind of obscure indigenous grapes, often it's difficult to sell them because people don't just gravitate towards a grape that they've never heard of when they're buying on a restaurant or if they're buying blindly in a store shelf. That's why these kind of wines work so well for us. we're hand selling them. So we're able to describe the wine to our customers, tell them about the grape, tell them why it's such an interesting grape, and tell them why they'd love it. This is one of those grapes that requires hand selling. So I would say that if you've never talked to your clients, actually spoken to your clients about this wine, you're not going to sell it. Taking a picture and sending a text of a grape that they've never heard of, no matter what you describe it as in the text, is not going to do nearly the job that by hand selling it. This is why wineries like Clunia love working with us and love getting us some of their products that are a little more authentic and are made from indigenous grapes and made from grapes that are not your typical, Sauv Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, Riesling. They are grapes that you have to describe and sort of accurately tell them why they'd love it, compare it to other varieties that they've had. So that's kind of the sizzle behind this wine. This wine is unique. This wine is made as a sort of I think proud is a good word for it. The people who own Clunia are very proud of Spanish wines, the history and the culture behind Spanish wines. And so they're really interested in promoting these kind of grapes that aren't your international varieties that everybody knows. So difference in winemaking is definitely there too. I don't have my notes handy in front of me for the Clunia Albillo, but I'm pretty sure the Clunia Albillo does some time in French oak. And I believe even fermentation, part of the fermentation is done in French oak, whereas this is done in tank. So this is all stainless steel. The idea behind this wine is capture the pure flavor of the varietal, keep the wine light on its toes, keep the acidity a little bit more buoyant and lively, and produce a wine. Maybe won't age as long, certainly won't age as long as the Clunia Albillo. That Clunia Albillo is a 10-year white wine. This is more like a 5-year white wine, 4 or 5 years. At 2022, drinking beautifully. This was bottled, I think it was aged 3 months on the lees, something like that. Yeah, 3 months on the lees in stainless steel. So it does have some richness on the lees, being with that sediment, with the must that settles to the bottom of the tank. Left there, a little bit of batonnage going on, stirring of those lees, bringing out more richness. But the Clunia Albillo, 10-year wine, no problem. This, you want to drink this pretty quickly. This was bottled, I guess, probably around February of 23. So it's been in the bottle now for 18 months. So it's drinking lovely. Let's get into it here. I'm a big fan of pineapple, probably my favorite fruit. And this one definitely has pineapple to it. I mean, it almost has a little bit of pineapple and touches of vanilla, not from the oak, just, a vanilla bean note. That is something that can happen without oak. It's typically oak, but in this case, it's not. So it's almost like one of those Dole whips, if you've ever had one of those Dole whips that have that vanilla pineapple thing going on. Beautiful. A little bit of herbs to it as well. I was getting sage on Friday. I don't know that I'm getting sage anymore. There's something herbal on the back end of that. A little bit of honey. Yeah, refreshing, lively, absolutely thirst quenching as can be. There are certain white wines that are more serious. You take small sips on them. You sort of swirl them around in your palate and you get to know the textures and you get to know the nuance. And then there's certain white wines that I think are more on the thirst quenching side. You still want to enjoy it and get to know the flavors and spend a little time with it. But the size of the sip, for me at least, is quite different on this wine versus the Clunia Albillo and versus white Burgundy or California Chardonnay or Grand Cru Riesling. This to me is more gulpable, quaffable white wine. And it's nice and cold. You'll probably see the bottle's nice and frosty. I like this much colder than I like those wines that I just described, the Clunia Albillo, white Burgundies, California Chardonnay. This, I think, is served at refrigerator temperature. So call it 38, 40 degrees, something like that. Nice and cold, so the crispness really comes across, and the finish has that snap, that refreshing sort of light, airy, however you want to describe it, vibrant, racy, lots of different wine terms to describe that same idea, which is a refreshing, bright thirst quenching white wine. Yummy. So who's either sipping it with me or remembers sipping it or opening it the last time when they got the bottle? Maybe talk about a food pairing. This is really good with grilled fish. I think I wrote the mahi-mahi that I do. Yeah. So we do mahi-mahi at our house often, dorado as they call it in Mexico. And we do it pretty simple, fillets, boneless, skinless fillets of the mahi-mahi, drizzled in a little olive oil, sea salt, pepper, maybe a little bit of garlic, maybe a little bit of butter instead of just all olive oil, depending if you want it sort of a little more rich. And then grilled, with just those seasonings and the oil on it so that it doesn't stick to the grill. Mahi-mahi is a little bit difficult. Some people use foil. I go right onto the grill, but you got to make sure the grill surface is clean and you have a little bit of oil to keep it from sticking. 3-4 minutes on each side, depending on the thickness of your filet. Mahi can get pretty thick. And then we do coconut rice and we do a mango tropical salsa on top of it. So you make that salsa in a big bowl and you kind of just take spoonfuls of it and place it on top of the fish, depending on how much salsa you like. You can put a little bit of fresh jalapeno in that salsa if you want something spicy. We have some jalapenos that are just coming ripe now in our backyard. And so we do Chrissy makes the salsa, but I want to say it's mango, chopped red onion, cilantro, a little bit of the jalapeno. She probably chops up some red fresh tomatoes in there as well, and tosses it with a little bit of lime juice and maybe a little more olive oil just to get it nice and moist. And then you drizzle that on top of the fish. Perfect. This kind of wine with those tropical flavors from the salsa really pair beautifully. And then the sort of buttery richness of the mahi-mahi is really matched by the nice, vibrant acidity on the back end of this. So that would be my recommendation. But, what did you guys have with it? Anybody want to jump in?
We had it yesterday. Actually, I had it yesterday. And I actually had it over 2 days. We had it Saturday. I don't know if I told you guys about this recipe before, but I did it at that wine tasting that I hosted last week. Like crostini with fresh peaches and burrata and a little bit of mint and hot honey. And that's the appetizer. It's phenomenal with this wine. We did it at the tasting with rosé, and it was great with rosé as well. And I wanted to recreate it for Chaz, so I made it with this, and it was awesome. And I also had it with some of the Vitrere rosé. So I had a little bit left of Vitrere, so I started with that, and then I opened this because I knew we were releasing it. And I had probably about 2 big glasses left in my bottle yesterday, and we did Greek salad with lemon garlic chicken, and the Greek salad was just tomatoes, red onion, lentils, fresh feta, the good stuff that you get in the brine, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And cubed up, and red pepper. So it was a really fresh, and all the herbs from my garden, Greek oregano and parsley and basil. And with this, it was awesome. I couldn't stop drinking it. It's super different than the other Albillo, their I guess we can call it their reserve one. But that went over really well at the tasting on Wednesday. And then to have this from the same producer, drink completely different, but still just you want to have it all summer, the rest of the summer. It's so hot and disgusting here. It was so nice to have something crisp and delicious and